Okay guys, so this is your instructional video for 5MD2, the measurement lesson for Wednesday, May 6th, line plot with fractions. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over a few quick things that you're gonna need to know in order to do your interactive notebook. First are the 3 vocabulary words that you're gonna need to know: line plot, data set, and fraction of a unit. So a line plot is a type of graph, and that graph usually shows how many times an event occurs at each point on the line, a line plot. So you plot information on a line, and that graph helps you quickly get a visual of how many times that thing happens. So a graph that shows how many times something happened. Okay. And a data set are usually like some sort of collection of information that then you can display on some sort of graph. Whether it be a bar graph or a line plot or a pie chart, whatever that graph is, the data or the data set is the information collected or a collection of information that can be displayed on a graph. And then your last one is fraction of a unit. Now this term was new to me, but basically what that means is the line plots you're going to be working with today are have fractions as the data. Okay, so I think why this vocabulary word was put there was just to show that sometimes when you're using a line plot or other graphs, that there's a fraction of a number, so you need to have a number in between two whole numbers. So in this case, we are going to use a fraction of a unit as a point on a line that lies between two whole numbers. So for example, it might be 1/2, which would be between 1 and 2 on your line plot, okay? All right, so this is how we do line plots. Now this should be a review. You guys should have done this last year in 4th grade, but really quickly, when you take a look at this data right here, and you want to create a line plot. Now I created this line plot for you. I broke the line into 4 different sections with 4 spaces down there to put the fractions underneath it. But the way I figured that out using this information is I listed this information out from least to greatest using all the information. So if I look here, it looks like 1/4 and 2/8, which are equivalent. Well, first of all, when you look at this, these don't have all the same denominator. So you need to flip them all to have the same denominator by using the equivalent fractions in order to figure out where they go on your line plot. So I'm going to use eighths as actually, let's use fourths. I'm going to use fourths as my equivalent fraction. So this is, we know 2/4, 2/4. This one's already there. That one's already there. 1 is fine. 1/4. Here's 2/4. And then 2/8 is also equivalent to 1/4. And here's 2/4. Okay. So now I can list these out from least to greatest. So it looks like 1/4 is my smallest fraction. So 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. I had 4 of those, or 3 of those, sorry. And then I had 1, 2, 3, 4 2/4 or 1/2. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put it as 1/2 now because I know what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 2 3/4. Done and done. And 1, 2, 3 whole numbers. Okay, so I only have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers in my set of data. So I only need 4 numbers down here, and I'm going to put them in order from least to greatest. So my smallest number will be 1/4. It will go right here, then 1/2, then 3/4, then 1 whole. Okay? So you always want to put your data down here on your line plot going from least to greatest and in order. Okay? Now I'm going to just count. Well, I had 3 of these, so I put 3 X's above this, above 1/4. I have 4 1/2, so I put 4 X's above this. I have 2 3/4, 1, 2, and 3 whole numbers, or 3 ones. So what's great about a line plot is you can really quickly visually see this and know which one's the most, 1/2, or which one's the least, 3/4. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to figure out what to put down here and how to break up your line plot. So again, I'm going to go ahead and put these in order from least to greatest. Now it looks like these are all equivalent to 1/2 again, or can go in that family. So 1 and 1/2, 1/2, 3/4, 1 and 1/4, 1, 1 and 1/4, 2 and 1/4. Here's that tricky 8 again. I know that's 1/4. And then we've got, the rest are good. Okay, so I'm going to cross this out and leave that as 1/4. So it looks like my smallest fraction here is 1/4. And I only have 1 of them. Yes. So I did that, comma. And then it looks like my next one is 1/2. And I have 2 of them. Done and done. And then it looks like 3/4 is next. 3/4, there's 2 of them. Done and done. And then after that 1, there's 2 of them. Done and done. And now I go into my mixed numbers with 1 being the whole number. So 1 and 1/4 is next. There's 2 of them. And then done and done. And then it looks like we've got these 2 left. So 2 comes next. And then 2 and 1/4. Or 2 and 1/2, sorry. All right, so this is where it gets a little tricky because you might have some blank ones on your number line because you don't want to skip numbers. So for example, if this would have been 1 and 1/4 up here, I would still have needed that 1, and then I would have put 1 and 1/4 here, and then that 1 would have just stayed blank. You still need, because this is a number line, you still have to have those numbers that are in between that you may not have. So for this, I'm going to start with my 1/4, then I'm going to do 1/2, then I'm going to do 3/4, then 1 whole, then 1 and 1/4, then 1, and I got to do 1 and 1/2. I got to do 1 and 3/4 because these are the same distance apart. This is a number line, so it still counts as like actual geometric form, right? You still have to have the same distance apart, even though I don't have either one of these numbers. And then I have a 2. I need to put what comes between 2 and 1/2. I have to put a 2 and 1/4 there. So these are my numbers on my number line, even though I don't have some of them. We'll just leave those blank. So I have 1 1/4, 2 1/2, 2 3/4, 2 wholes, 2 1 and 1/4. I don't have any 1 and 1/2. No 1 and 3/4. I have 1 2 and 1 and 1.5. So that's what that line plot looks like. Now, I don't think you're going to have to do this type of work for your interactive homework, I think, or your interactive notebook. It looks like all of your line plots are already created there for you, but this is an important skill to know, how to organize your data, how to figure out what your graph is going to look like, and what's going to actually be on your line plot. So if you haven't already, go ahead, and a blank form of this is on Google Classroom. Print that off and do it. If you did it, or you can just write it down on a piece of paper while you're looking at it on your screen. If you already did that and you were doing it along with me, awesome. You might want to rewind and look at it again, make sure you did it right. But if you went over this, if you watched this video and you went over this, you should be ready to go to do your interactive notebook. One last thing you need to do is it's really simple. It's stuff that you learned how to do when you were in like 1st or 2nd grade. It's just like looking at a line plot and understanding which one has the most and which one has the least, okay? It doesn't mean that this is the least, even though this is the smallest fraction. It still has 3 here, right? This one is the smallest amount of data in the line plot. Remember, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at how many of those fractions are on your line plot. And in this case right here, there's only 2 of them. So 3/4 has the smallest amount of data given, right? So you would, if some question said something about the smallest amount, you wouldn't say the smallest amount of data or smallest amount of entries. You wouldn't say 1/4 because it has 3. You would say 3/4 because it has 2. But if it did ask like what is the shortest distance on your line plot or shortest amount or smallest amount for actual distance, this one might be the right answer. So you got to pay really close attention to what the questions are asking you. All right, hope this helped.